Within 6 months of beginning my new job, I had reached such a state of despair that an especially difficult work assignment precipitated a crisis. Unable to complete the task on my own and too isolated to ask for help, I decided that I was a failure as a lawyer, a husband, and a father, and I began contemplating suicide. One morning, when Toddy was away from the house for several hours with the children, I began drinking straight shots of vodka to get the courage to take my own life. After half a dozen shots, I wrote Toddy a brief note telling her that I loved her and the children, and that what I was about to do was not her fault. I then drank another half dozen shots and called a prominent Vietnam veteran in New York whom I barely knew to tell him what a rotten deal we veterans had gotten from our country. After the phone call, I had one more drink, went out to my car, tightly closed the garage and kitchen doors. I put the key in the ignition. For what seemed like an eternity, I sat behind the wheel with my hand on the ignition key and tears streaming down my face. And I thought about never seeing my family again. Unable to turn the key and suddenly feeling the effects of so much vodka, I decided to put my head down on the seat for a few minutes before getting on with my plan. When I came to several hours later, Toddy was standing over me, screaming and slapping my face, and all I could think was that my suicide gesture, like my life, had been a failure. After being sedated in the psychiatric ward of the nearest hospital, I awakened sometime the next afternoon at Bethesda. I was stabilized, diagnosed as clinically depressed, and introduced to a regimen of individual and group psychotherapy for the next week while strangers plotted the course of my future. And again, I tried to give the hints of the alcohol use and how it escalated, and the book goes into more detail of how it does escalate, and that's kind of the climax of that situation.